We live in a society nowadays that tends to focus more on the negatives. We focus more on what people aren't doing rather than what they are doing. We focus more on what people do wrong rather than focusing on what they do right. And the same holds true in the area of special needs and disabilities. We tend to focus more on the deficits and the challenges rather than the strengths. But at Key Ministry, we like to focus on the strength of what our kids can do regardless of their diagnosis because we believe that that's more consistent with God's Word. From Philippians 4:8, brothers, whatever's true, whatever's noble, whatever's admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And in this presentation, we want to do that. We want to look at some of the positive traits or some of the positive aspects of the diagnosis of autism. One of the positive sides or traits of the diagnosis of autism is that kids understand concrete concepts really, really well. A very cool positive trait is a lot of the people on the autism spectrum have a very quirky sense of humor. Another positive aspect of being on the autism spectrum is an ability to memorize rote material pretty easily. Another thing people on the autism spectrum can typically do well is learn chunks of information fairly quickly. Another positive aspect of the autism spectrum is being perfectionistic in approach to tasks. If you want to get a job done well and get it done precisely, ask someone on the autism spectrum to do it. People on the autism spectrum really don't take time to try to impress other people. They're just themselves. Something that I think is really cool about a positive aspect of being on the autism spectrum, people on the spectrum tend to be honest, even to a fault. They're honest. They will tell you what's on their mind. People on the autism spectrum tend to be very detail-oriented, and that's a huge advantage for projects and tasks. A positive aspect of the autism spectrum, sometimes some very exceptional skills in math and music and language and other subjects. Individuality. People on the autism spectrum tend to stand out from the crowd. They're not busy trying to blend in. They're being themselves, and by being themselves, they stand out. Being on the autism spectrum often allows a person to think outside of the box. Another really cool thing, it's a positive aspect of the autism spectrum. Folks on the autism spectrum typically have a very non-judgmental attitude. Wouldn't that be refreshing to meet more people in life who are non-judgmental? Folks on the autism spectrum tend to provide a very unique perspective about life. They see things in different colors than what we do and bring something different to the table because of that. Being on the autism spectrum, another positive attribute, they have difficulties being devious. Isn't that cool? You know, no sneaking around or telling little white lies, tend to be very truthful. Like I said before, honest to a fault, and for that reason, hardly ever, if ever, devious. Positive attribute of being on the autism spectrum is being very passionate with a very strong sense of things that they like. Folks on the autism spectrum tend to think in visual ways, and for that reason are able to contribute to different ideas and concepts because of the way that they see things in their world. It's not uncommon for our society to equate a person's value with what that person is capable of achieving or accomplishing in their life. In other words, value is related to what people do, and that's a misperception. The reality is that because we are created in the image of God, temporarily abled and disabled alike, our value is in who we are. The Holy Scriptures remind us that everyone we're ever going to meet is made in the image of God, to include those on the autism spectrum. And I can't think of anything more positive than that.